Hello and welcome. It's Friday the 28th of March. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on Arirang TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Continuing her reunification campaign in Germany, President Park Geun-hye seeks advice from former senior officials of East and West Germany on how to prepare for unification with North Korea. The UN Security Council condemns North Korea's recent ballistic missile launch as a violation of UN resolutions and will consult on a suitable response. Plus, the government will ease dozens of business regulations as a follow-up to last week's meeting on regulatory reform. It'll soon be legal for individuals to renovate commercial trucks into food trucks if they meet certain requirements. Our top story this morning, reunification continued to be at the top of President Park's agenda on day 3 of her state visit to Germany. From visiting the remains of the Berlin Wall to meeting with the leaders of German unification, our correspondent Choi Yoo-sun takes us through a day in the president's reunification campaign.
President Park, the leader of the world's only divided nation, visited a highly symbolic site of unity and freedom. Berlin's East Side Gallery is what's left of the Berlin Wall, covered in painted murals by more than 100 artists from around the world to commemorate the 1989 fall of the wall that led to German unification. The South Korean president also visited a photo exhibition that compares scenes from the demilitarized zone on the Korean peninsula and Germany's Grünes Bund, which is now an ecological park. The president had proposed turning the DMZ into something similar.
우리 나라의 DMZ도 언젠가는 평화의 상징으로 바뀌는 그런 날이 올 것이다 하는 그런 희망과 기대를 갖게 됩니다.
Staying with a reunification campaign, President Park met 5 former and current officials who were at the center of German unification, asking them to share their insights and wisdom. The group told the president there were frequent people exchanges between the East and the West that eventually led to a peaceful reunification. They said the German case is different from the situation on the Korean peninsula in that East Germans themselves had wanted change. At a luncheon with Korean and German businessmen, President Park vowed to prepare the Korean peninsula for a peaceful reunification. She then asked the business community to do their part in achieving a successful economic integration between the two Koreas. President Park is now in Dresden for the second leg of her state visit. Here, she is expected to lay out details of her reunification policy during a speech on Friday. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News, Dresden.
The UN Security Council has spoken with one voice on North Korea's recent ballistic missile launch, calling it a clear violation of UN resolutions. Expressing deep concern after a closed-door meeting on Thursday, the 15-nation council said it would hold consultations and respond appropriately to Pyongyang's latest provocation. There were some concerns that China, North Korea's traditional ally, wouldn't stand by the statement, but Beijing did support it this time around. North Korea fired 2 medium-range Rodong ballistic missiles into the East Sea in the early hours of Wednesday morning Korea time. It was the first time North Korea has fired mid-range missiles since 2009. The South Korean military in the early hours of this Friday returned a North Korean fishing boat that crossed over the maritime border that separates the two Koreas in the West Sea. The Joint Chiefs of Staff says the boat sailed around 2 kilometers over the northern limit line late Thursday afternoon, ignoring several warnings to return to the north. The boat was seized at that time, along with 3 crew members. Officials said that poor visibility caused by fog may have caused the boat to drift into South Korean waters. Now, North Korea has launched a blistering verbal attack on South Korean President Park Geun-hye over comments she made about the regime's nuclear program at an international nuclear summit earlier this week. Seoul says it regrets Pyongyang's aggressive tone and insists President Park wasn't trying to insult the North. Our Kwon So-ah has this report.
North Korea lobbed direct and coarse words at President Park Geun-hye once again, and with them broke a recent agreement made with South Korea. The spokesperson of the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland, a North Korean organization dealing with reunification matters, told the North's official Korean Central News Agency that President Park's recent emphasis on denuclearizing North Korea was, quote, thoughtless and ignorant, and that she should watch what she says if she really wants to improve inter-Korean relations. The spokesperson also called President Park a, quote, faithful servant and stooge of the United States. The South Korean government says it regrets the disrespectful remarks.
North Korea claims that the South Korean government is slandering North Korea. However, we once again emphasize that this is not true.
The harshly worded comments mentioning President Park by name are the first since Pyongyang agreed to stop cross-border slandering. That came on February 14th at a high-level meeting between the two Koreas. The South Korean government says Pyongyang has violated the deal.
North Korea is lashing out at the emphasis placed on denuclearizing the North at the recent Korea-US-Japan meeting. The criticism against President Park Geun-hye seems to suggest the North wants to lead the nuclear issue by itself.
Despite the harsh words coming from the North and the high chance that more will come, experts say they're not likely to affect the current efforts to improve the relations on the Korean peninsula. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
So, as you can see there, tensions may be bubbling back to the surface here on the Korean peninsula. Yet more than 30 citizens of the two Koreas will get together this week in China for the first time in 7 years. The group, members of civic groups from either side of the border, will discuss ways to counter Japan's denial of its wartime crimes. Our Hwang Sang-hee has this report.
In a rare show of cooperation, civic groups from the two Koreas will seek ways to demand Japan issue an official apology for its wartime sexual enslavement of women in the early 20th century. The Seoul-based Korean Council for the Women drafted for military sexual slavery by Japan said Thursday that it will meet with a North Korean civic group at the end of this month in the Chinese city of Shenyang. Around 200,000 women, mostly Korean, were forced to serve the Japanese military during the Second World War, and many are still waiting for a heartfelt apology from Japan. The planned conference will be the first time in 8 years for the Koreas to put their heads together on the matter. An official at Seoul's Unification Ministry said the South Korean civic group proposed to counter Japan's ongoing denial of its wartime crimes together, and that the North agreed. 24 South Koreans, including one survivor of Japan's military sexual slavery, will meet 10 North Korean representatives. Meanwhile, a diplomatic source said Wednesday that a Japanese government official met with a human rights activist taking care of the Korean victims for the first time last week in Seoul. The Japanese government initially asked to meet with the comfort women to determine their demands ahead of a government-level meeting between Seoul and Tokyo next month. The Japanese official reportedly said Tokyo wants to resolve the diplomatic feud, stressing Prime Minister Shinzo Abe showed his sincerity about the matter by stating his willingness to uphold Japan's landmark 1993 apology to the comfort women. In response, the South Korean activist urged Japan to acknowledge Tokyo's legal responsibility for forcing the victims into sexual slavery. The activist also said the Japanese leader should apologize to the victims on the international stage. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
That a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. The Korean government is wasting no time slashing red tape that it says is holding back economic growth. Dozens of regulations have been picked out and will either be amended or abolished completely in the coming months. Our Kim Ji-yeon has the details.
The government is speeding up its deregulatory reforms. Finance Minister Hyun Oh-seok presided over the first ministerial-level meeting on the matter Thursday to inspect, evaluate, and come up with follow-up measures to President Park Geun-hye's 3-year economic innovation plan. They started with the recommendations proposed during working level talks held earlier this week and pinpointed 52 regulations that could be improved, including one that would ultimately allow for the operation of food trucks. Hyun said 41 of the regulations can be addressed immediately, with 27 of them to be amended in the first half of this year.
Regulations that could be amended by administrative or in-house measures should be completed and ready to take effect by April. Regulations that require legislative amendments, let's get them done by the end of June.
For the operation of food trucks, the government will allow the remodeling of trucks with a loading capacity of at least 0.5 square meters. The food trucks will be able to do business in amusement and theme parks in the latter half of this year. The ministry says it is working with the Transport Ministry to cut regulations on the tuning of automobiles as well, so long as it does not affect passenger safety. The aim there is to promote the use of vehicles for leisure purposes, such as camping cars and caravans, to boost the country's auto components industry. A task force will also be launched to promote the country's service sector. An estimated 200,000 new jobs will be created through deregulation on the medical and education sectors alone. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And thanks to the current administration's deregulation drive, online shopping is about to get a whole lot easier in Korea. Industry insiders say the government is looking into ways to complement the safety of online shopping and do away with the need for electronic banking certificates so that people won't need to jump through hoops to make their purchases. Currently, if you want to buy something online that costs more than around $300, you need a special electronic certificate that's only provided by banks, and that makes online shopping difficult for foreigners living in the country and people overseas. The change is expected to take effect in June. Average rates on mortgages in Korea hit an all-time low in February. The Bank of Korea said Thursday that the average mortgage rate last month was 3.7%, down 0.04 percentage points from a month earlier. That's the lowest it's been since 2001, when the central bank first started to compile the data. It attributed the low rates to government policies aimed at restructuring snowballing household debt. The Worldwide Fund for Nature, or WWF as it's also known, opens its very first Korean branch in Seoul this week. At a press conference held on Thursday, the environmental NGO said it will aim towards raising awareness about climate change and promoting the use of renewable energy here in Korea by closely cooperating with related ministries and companies. Established in 1961 in Switzerland, the Global Conservation Organization now has more than 100 branches worldwide. WWF's Korea's CEO and co-chairman, Jean-Paul Padak, said the group's Earth Hour initiative has been especially successful in Korea in recent years.
Seoul has been very active in its environmental leadership. They have been a great supporter of Earth Hour in Korea, and in the past 3 years, Earth Hour has been the fastest growing market for this initiative that WWF started 8 years ago. Seoul has been selected as a finalist for the Earth Hour City Challenge competition, which is a global competition, and we congratulate Seoul for achieving that.
The WWF's Earth Hour initiative is a grassroots movement to raise awareness about energy by calling on people to minimize consumption for 1 hour. This year's Earth Hour falls at 8:30 p.m. on March 29th. Now, time to take a look at some of the international headlines we're following at this hour. And for that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, who is standing by, as always, at our news centre. Good morning to you, Eunice. Now, let's begin with an update on Ukraine. The new government in Kiev appears to be now on the receiving end of a wave of global support.
Hello, Mark. Indeed, the United Nations lending its support to Ukraine this time. It approved a resolution that affirmed Ukraine's territorial integrity and called the Russia-backed referendum vote for Crimea secession illegal. The non-binding resolution was backed by 100 countries, with 11 voting against and 58 abstaining. This comes after the IMF said it would extend a rescue package between 14 and 18 billion US dollars, contingent upon reforms implemented by Ukraine's new government. The U.S. Congress also passed legislation Thursday amounting to a $1 billion loan guarantee. Another $2.2 billion is expected to come from the European Union. Turning to an update now on the hunt for missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. New satellite sightings, this time from Thailand and Japan, are adding momentum to the search efforts in the southern Indian Ocean. Taken on Monday, Thailand's images spotted 300 floating objects, the largest suspected cluster yet near the search area. The objects range from 2 to 15 meters in size and are scattered over a space some 2,700 kilometers southwest of Australia. Near the same area, Japan's Cabinet Intelligence and Research Office said its satellite on Wednesday located some 10 objects. The images have been passed on to Malaysian authorities. It will likely take several more days to process the data. Turkey's Telecommunications Authority has apparently moved to block access to YouTube 1 day after a Turkish court ordered a cancellation of a Twitter ban. The authority said it took an administrative measure against YouTube after, quote, technical analysis and legal consideration. This followed what appeared to be a leaked audio recording of a highly confidential conversation of Turkish officials discussing Syria that was uploaded onto YouTube. Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan appeared to have confirmed that audio leak, as he called it, villainous and dishonest, during a rally on Thursday. Prime Minister Erdogan faces important local elections on Sunday. And during his European tour, U.S. President Barack Obama swung through the Vatican to meet Pope Francis for the first time. During the nearly 2-hour visit, a Vatican statement said the two leaders discussed current areas of conflict, a reference to Ukraine and Syria. President Obama said domestic issues, such as his drive for immigration reform, was discussed as well. Upon reception, President Obama told the pontiff he's a great admirer and presented a symbolic gift of fruit and vegetable seeds from the White House garden. The U.S. leader invited Pope Francis to the White House, to which the Pope is said to have said, "Como no" in Spanish, or "why not" in English.
Now, New York Yankees legend Yogi Berra once said it ain't over till it's over. And for the Korea Skating Union and the Korea Olympic Committee, the fight for Kim Yeon-a's gold medal goes on. But the president of the International Skating Union states, well, no official paperwork was given. Now, according to Octavio Cinquanta, the president of the ISU, the World Skating Governing Body did receive a complaint, but no official paperwork to dispute the scoring was made. Now, he added that in order for them to review the controversial scoring, there needs to be an evidence, as the fight goes on over a month after the Sochi Winter Games. And staying with the sport, with the World Figure Skating Championships taking place in Japan, the future of South Korean figure skating, 17-year-old skaters Park So-yeon and Kim Hae-jin completed their short program on Thursday. Now, competing against 33 other skaters, Kim Hae-jin was able to finish her short program with 51.83 points, allowing her to qualify for the free skating program. On the other hand, it was a great day for Park So-yeon, who would score her career best 57.22 points, even with the 1-point deduction. But speaking of career best, Japan's Mao Asada sets a new record for short program after scoring 78.66 points, breaking Kim Yeon-a's record by 0.16 points and setting a new world record. And now moving over to baseball, where the KBO fans have been waiting months and months, and will now finally have baseball again this weekend. With the Samsung Lions winning 3 straight Korean Series titles, they look to be the early favorites going into the season. But now that the teams are allowed 3 foreign players, no one's sure who the real preseason favorites are. Meanwhile, the KBO has stated that their goal for this season is to break the 7 million attendance mark once again, with their slogan, "Always be with you." And now moving over to the KBO with Game 3 of the semifinals between Seoul SK Knights and the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus. And of course, jumping into the game here, SK and Mobis neck and neck as Mobis takes a slim 20-18 lead after the first quarter before going into halftime with a 38-33 lead. SK's offense stifled by Mobis' defense all night as Moon Tae-young puts up 18 points and 10 rebounds as Mobis takes a 2-1 lead with a 67-62 win. And now finishing things off with Game 1 of the Women's V-League Championships between the defending champions IBK Altos and GS Kartex. And despite IBK being the favorites in the series, this match is a close one, as both teams split 2 sets each in the first 4 sets. But the difference maker in the game is Bethania de la Cruz de Peña, who puts up 42 points and leads GS's offense as GS Kartex takes the final set 15-10 and takes a 1-0 series lead. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good Friday morning to you. I'm Ijian with your latest weather forecast. Well, it's looking hazy and dusty outside here in the capital. Well, that's due to high level of fine and ultra-fine dust particles, and the level will remain quite high in the upper parts of the peninsula till this afternoon. In fact, fine dust alert was issued as of 7 a.m. this morning, so it might be a good idea to wear a face mask on your way out. And temperature-wise, it will be similar to warmer than yesterday, as here in the capital, readings will reach up to 23 degrees Celsius. Well, not only here in Seoul, but the rest of the country should have early summer-like conditions throughout the day. But it's not going to be as sunny as yesterday, but the fog should burn off quickly as the day goes on, and the glimpse of sunshine of this morning will be replaced by increasing clouds in the afternoon and nationwide showers by tomorrow. So we are expected to receive showers somewhere between 5 to 70 millimeters of rainfall. Regions down south and Jeju should receive heavier rain tomorrow. And it looks like this shower will cool things down a bit, but readings will still remain on the mild side. So please do keep that in mind. And let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will jump up to 23, and Daegu and Gwangju should top out at 25 and 24 respectively, while Busan should get up to 19 under dazzling sunshine. While other regions will also enjoy sunny and warm days, as Jeju and Daejeon will peak to 21 and 25, while Dokdo rise to 18 and Mount Kumgang will soar to 15. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world.
Well, that does it for now. We'll be back with another newscast at noon Korea time. In the meantime, you can always catch up with what's been happening on our website, arirang.co.kr/news.